Good evening, everybody. So today is the second day of introduction Buddhism. So some of you may thought introduction Buddhism is very simple. You can understand the basic of Buddhism within few classes, not like that. So when I explain, when I introduce the basic Buddhism, I just introduce as all of you totally new in Dharma, totally new in Buddhism. Some of you have a deeper knowledge, higher knowledge in Buddhism, but I will explain as everybody is totally new for Buddhism, for Dharma. In the last class, I talked about the very brief history of Buddhism, history of Buddha, and a short explanation about three wheel of Dharma, and also explain what are the content or subject of first wheel of Dharma, second wheel of Dharma, third wheel of Dharma. Then also I explained the concept of the Creator, God, also concept of law and causality. So all religion we can divide into two: believe in God, don't believe in God. So the Buddhism usually doesn't accept the Creator as a God, but we still believe in karma. Then also I explained what is the achievement of practicing Dharma. Then we talk about Nirvana. So the Nirvana is achievable or not is a big question. The Nirvana is not a place you can go or you can come back. The Nirvana, the Buddhahood, is the particular mental quality you can achieve through your practices. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni, he achieved enlightenment under the Buddha tree in India. And that time he didn't go anywhere, he just seated under the Buddha tree, then he achieved Buddhahood or Nirvana. Mean that time finally he eliminated all the negative karma, negative thoughts, all the the affliction mind. Then we said he achieved Nirvana. So in order to know that, we must know the nature of our minds. So we have a positive minds, we have a negative minds, we have the neutral minds. But the big question, are they same continuum or different continuum? This is a big question. Also, the phenomena, who has a mind, then we can call sentient being or human being. So the sentient being who has a mind, then they have a feeling, they have a pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, neutral feeling. When they have a pleasant feeling, they really wish to have this kind of feeling forever. When they have an unpleasant feeling, unpleasant sensation, they don't like this kind of sensation. They want to reduce, they want to eliminate the unpleasant feeling, unpleasant condition. So important. So we just think, we are interested in Buddhism. We are interested in practice of Buddhism. So before we must practice Buddhism, before we must believe in any religion, the question number one, I think you ask yourself, religion is important or not? Question number one. The question number two, if religion is important, do I need to believe in religion or not? This is the question number two. The question number three, if you really think, if you really feel, honestly, yes, I need to believe in religion, then which religion I must believe? Then you need to draw, basic understanding of all religions. So that's why, most of us always believe I'm a Buddhist, but so we don't have the very basic understanding, the basic knowledge about Buddhism. That's why we have a lot of confusion. When we do practice, then we don't know how to practice Buddhism. So introduction Buddhism is very important. So when I introduce the basic Buddhism, so I have to cover many topics about the two truths, topic about Four Noble Truths, then topic about the gross and subtle, very subtle level of Four Noble Truths, as well as karma, related to karma. Then I have to explain the 12 links interdependent. Then, so basic practice of Buddhism plus basic practice of Mahayana, then basic practice of Vajrayana. So this is I will try to introduce to you. Maybe it takes maybe 6-7 classes to cover all the topics. Then the first will of Dharma about Four Noble Truths. All of you know. We say noble, then truth. Noble and truth. So why we called noble and truth? Noble here referred to the Arya, who transcended from ordinary being, Arya. Then truth. So the four are the truth for the Arya, because they can see the truth. We just believe, we thought, but we really cannot see the truth, through our direct perception. That's what we call four. Is the four, number four. Then noble is referred to the Arya, who able to see the four truths directly, their own mind. So we cannot see the Four Noble Truth directly. Now the Four Noble Truth, the first truth of suffering, truth of suffering. Second is truth of origin or cause or condition of suffering. The third is the truth of cessation, which is cease ignorance, affective emotions, karma. The fourth is the truth, truth of the path to achieve cessation. Those are the Four Noble Truths. First time when Buddha talked about truth of suffering, he said, this is truth of suffering. This refers to the dukkha, which is we have the physical body, is the truth of suffering. The second, he said, you must recognize, you must realize. So this the physical body, the nature is suffering, you must realize or you must recognize. Second time, when he introduced the origin of suffering, then he said, this is origin of suffering. This is referred to ignorance, then afflictive emotions, all the karma. Doesn't matter positive karma or negative karma, the contaminated karma are the origin of suffering. Then second time he said, you must abandon, you must eliminate. Right? This is truth of suffering, you must recognize. Second, this is the origin of suffering, you must eliminate, you must abandon from the root. The third time that he said, this is the cessation. Cessation. This refer to the state when we cease the afflict emotions, ignorance and karma. That state is the cessation. And second time he said, you must achieve. You must achieve. That means it is not just enough to believe there's a cessation, you must achieve. Then the fourth time, when he introduced about the path to cessation, he said also, this is path. You must practice. You must meditate. You must familiarize. His big advice is that recognize the suffering, recognize the origin of suffering, recognize the cessation, recognize the path. After you recognize the suffering, you must eliminate. How I can eliminate the truth of suffering? You must eliminate the cause and condition of the suffering. How I can eliminate? How I can minimize the origin of suffering? How? Then he said, you must practice the path. Then you can achieve the cessation. So this is the very important foundation. As a Buddhist, every day we must practice the Four Noble Truths. How? Each time when you feel suffering, each time when you see suffering, you must recognize what are the causes and conditions of the suffering. After you recognize, yes, those are the cause and condition of suffering, then you must think how I can eliminate. Can I eliminate simply just, pray to Buddha, pray to Dharma, Sangha? No, you cannot. You must practice the path. Then finally you can seize the origin of suffering. When you seize the origin of suffering, then you can seize the suffering. When you seize the suffering, then you have nirvana. You can achieve nirvana. You are totally free from suffering. Because you are free from the cause of suffering, then you are free from the suffering. Now we talk more deeper level, the truth of suffering. Whole suffering. So we can divide into three levels. Suffering of change, the pervasive suffering. Okay, first, suffering of suffering. Second is suffering of change. The third is the pervasive suffering. That means whatever we talk about suffering, we're talking about among the three of them. For example, when you have a physical problem, headache, stomach, whatever, is talking about the suffering of suffering. Because the physical body which is we have, the nature is suffering. When we have a headache, sickness, all of we talk about suffering of suffering. The second, suffering of change. So this concept is very important because even though the animal, cow, dogs, fish, chicken, all, sentient beings can recognize. They can, recognize, they can understand the suffering of suffering. For example, when you leave the pit, the dog, in the sun, the dog knows, the dog needs, like a shadow. When the dog feels hungry, they also know, if I eat, I can avoid the sense of hungry. That's why suffering of suffering is very gross. All sentient beings, can understand. That's why when you look at the National Geographic Discover, you can see in the forest, all the, the animal is fighting each other, killing each other for survive. These are very gross. Second, the suffering of suffering. The suffering of suffering cannot recognize all sentient beings except, we human being or celestial being. Let's say only human being at the moment. So what does mean the suffering of suffering? Actually, when we say, I'm very happy, today I am very happy, yesterday I was so happy, tomorrow I will be happy. What we are talking about, actually we are talking about the changing of suffering. For example, this morning the weather was so hot, so you wasn't happy. Afternoon, suddenly the weather turned very cool. Then you say, oh, I'm very happy now, the weather is so good. Actually, the suffering reduced certain level, then we can say, I'm happy. Actually, the happy which is you feeling, which is you talking about, actually is still continuum of suffering. Then, if it is ultimate happiness, if you have this kind of, the temperature for 2-3 hours, then again say, oh, I'm not happy, right? So this is what we call, changing of suffering of change. That means until now, I don't think any of us have a experience of ultimate happiness. When we are hungry, we are suffered. We are not happy. After we eat breakfast, lunch, suddenly we feel so happy. Right? So happy. That moment, actually, still we are in the suffering state. The suffering reduces, so we cannot feel it so strongly. So this is, recognized as a suffering, the both Buddhist and non-Buddhist. Non-Buddhist here referred to the Hindu people or people who believe in Hinduism. Also now we have a lot of other religion, the Christian people, the Muslim people, Jewish people. Everybody recognize, yes, since, I am interested in religion, I try to achieve happiness, but I'm always, feel I'm always not happy. And then they recognize, the changing of suffering. The third one, what we call the pervasive suffering. The pervasive means this kind of suffering covered for all sentient beings. All sentient beings. Doesn't matter, even though Bodhisattva, Arya, Arhat, until become a complete enlightened man, until become Buddha, everybody has this type of suffering. What we call the contaminated physical body. Contaminated physical body. So we just look at, just think about, few minutes. Whatever you have in your house, in your bathroom, in your bag, whatever we have, 75 or 80% or 99% for the physical body. Think about your bedroom, why we need bed. When we sleep on the hard surface, we feel pain. Because the body. I need a pillow. Without pillow, if you sleep, you got neck problem. The clothes, the food, the toothpaste, the toothbrush, the shampoos. How many things we have in the market? Just go in the supermarket. In the supermarket, let's say 90% for and 100% for physical body. Then even though when you go to library, most of the books about how we can have a physical happiness, not much about how we can have the mental happiness. So due to having this body, then we need lots of things. In order to have all the things, then we have to put a lot of effort. That's why this kind of the body, pervasive for all sentient being. Everybody must have until you become Buddha. So this is what we call the pervasive suffering. Now we go the more subtle level. Now we have a physical body is very gross. Then next we go more subtle level. For example, so when we first time as a human being, first time when we enter in the mother womb during the concept time, just the substance, the sperm and egg meet together, so we enter into mother womb. This is the first time we reborn. Rebirth. We take a rebirth. The first time, the true substance meet together, we just enter in it. And that time, as a human being, nobody have this kind of gross body, right? That time we have very subtle body, very subtle body. Now we think about that time we have a physical body, that time we have a mind, we have a 5 aggregates. As a human being, we have a 5 aggregates. Those 5 aggregates are so subtle compared with this body, these 5 aggregates. Now there's a big question, the people who believe in the previous life. The people who believe in God is very simple. They don't have this kind of, the complex, the question, very simple. They just think, yes, I don't know what are my cause and condition. Just I create by God, simply just believe in God. So everything produced by God, the mind, the body, the soul, whatever, by God. After we death, the people who believe in God, after your death, then there are only two options, right? You go into heaven or hell. Just very simple. Still, we can raise a lot of questions. The being, the human who, born in hell, how long the being have to stay in hell? How long? According to the people, religion who believe in God, forever. Right? As a Buddhist, so we don't accept, we don't have the concept of the Creator, concept of the God. Why not? We're not simply saying there's no God. We're simply not saying there's no Creator. If there's a God, if there's a Creator, then how, when the God, the Creator, create us? How long, when? Big question. So, the second more important question is, if we creates by God, who creates the God? Do you know, according to the Christianity, what is the important logic to believe in God? Very important logic. Anybody does anybody know? They believe in prem mover, move and mover. Move, right? Things are moving. For example, look at this marker pen is here. For example, it's not moving. Other just is moving. Right? This marker pen move from here to here. Who move? Move by my force. My force. If there's not mover, they cannot move. So according to Christianity, they believe there's a thought. Therefore, there's a God. We have a thought. We keep thinking. Since we're born, we have a thoughts. The thoughts think something. What are the conditions to think? The mind think. Mind is just, the consciousness. When they think, they act. Right? The mind is acting. Who was the, thing to man thing? That's why there's a few logics to believe in God. There's one, they believe prem mover. Prem mover. Second logic, they said there's a thoughts. Therefore, there's a God. So they thought the God is the key factor to man need to think. The God is the main factor to move things. For example, we have a seed. The seeds grow up, become big tree, for another tree, fall down, became again atom. Then somehow is again come together. It's moving, everything is moving. That's why they believe in, Brahm mover. So Buddhism, we don't accept God, we don't believe in the Creator. Then the first body which is we have, right, during the concept time. During the concept time, we have a body, we have a mind. The body is not referred to the egg and sperm. The gross body, yes, our bond, depend, it arises based on the sperm, the flesh and blood, everything's, the primary cause is the egg. The egg slowly transforms as a flesh and skin. And the sperm slowly transforms as a bone. This is a gross. But the subtle body, nothing to do with the egg and sperm. So now everybody think, what is the subtle body? Where the subtle body come from? If you really know, yes, I have a gross body, I have a subtle body, then I have a more subtle body. Then slowly you need to think about, yes, there's a possibility to have a previous life. So it's so important to think about the previous life. That means within the truth of suffering, there's a gross, which is this body. There's a subtle body, which is we have the first, when we enter in the mother womb, there's subtle body. Then there's a more subtlest body. Is also, all of them include into the truth of suffering. Truth of suffering. For example, even though you don't, have this gross body, still you can have a suffering. Even though you don't have the subtle body, which is we have, the first time during the concept time, even though you don't have this body, still you can have a suffering. That means truth of suffering. Then now, how, where the suffering come from? Then we need to think about the two types of, the feeling. Many feeling is depend on the body. It doesn't matter gross or subtle bodies depend on body. What we call physical happiness or physical suffering. When we think about suffering, we need to think two different ways of suffering, two different types of suffering. One is physical suffering. Physical suffering or physically suffering. For example, when you hit your hand on the wall, suddenly you get suffering. You can have a sense of unpleasant feeling. It's a very gross suffering. This second, another type of suffering is nothing to do with your physical body. It can be arise within you. Just way of thinking. For example, when you think about the person who you really don't like, when you think about the person, suddenly you have an unpleasant feeling. You are not happy. This happiness, nothing to do with the physical body, only about your mind. What we call mental suffering. Then suffering have a two types: physical suffering, mental suffering. Physical happiness, mental happiness. Look at, now we have when we talk about physical happiness, when you wear beautiful clothes, when you eat delicious food, you feel happy. That time there's a sense of happiness. The sense of happiness also the cause to arise attachment, desire, anger. That's why When you meditate on feeling, then you're going to recognize the origin of suffering. You have a feeling. The feeling, we can have 5 different types of, 6 different types of feeling. 5 is depends on the 5 sensation. That's 6, it depends on the man mind. That's why the origin of suffering, finally you're going to go all the way to ignorance. When you have a lot of ignorance about anything, then you can have a lot of misunderstanding. When you have a lot of misunderstanding, then you have a lot of negative thoughts. So the ignorance is the main cause. Then second, attachment. Third, anger, pride, so and so. For example, usually I use the mala. For example, this is a just simple mala. Just simple, it may be this very simple mala. If you are totally new, you don't know anything about this mala, somebody said this mala is so expensive. It's very expensive, it is very rare. Then you really think, yes, this mala is very rare, it is so expensive. That means you have a lot of ignorance, you have a lot of misunderstanding about this mala. Then you slowly believe this mala is very important, very expensive, very rare. In the world, there's only 7 malas. Then, somebody live there and somebody give you as a gift. Then what you have a so strong attachment. Right? Very strong attachment. You think this is so important. It's attachment. If somebody touch, you get angry, upset. Somebody say, wow, you are so lucky, you have this mala. Then they increase your pride, your ego. And somebody take away, then you get upset, angry. That means, look at, there's an ignorance, then there's attachment. If there's an attachment, then there's an anger, hatred, pride. So what is the relationship between my physical body, the dukkha and the ignorance? Right? Now we need to link between the dukkha and the ignorance. It's so difficult to connect, make a connection between ignorance. Yes, there's ignorance, there's attachment, anger. Due to anger, attachment, the bad thoughts, then we have a bad action. We can understand bad action. Then how I can have this body? What is the relationship? What is the connection between ignorance body? Now again karma. So in order to know the connection between the truth of suffering, the origin of suffering, then you need to learn the 12 links interdependent, 12 links. 12 links. So I will just count number. Number 1, ignorance. Number 2 is the karma. Number 3 is the consciousness. Number 4 is name and form. Truth number 4. Number 5, number 5 is the source of, source, heje, or origin, or heje, number 5. Number 6 is name and form. So number 7, then touch, contact. Then the number 8, feeling. Rekba Surwa. Then clinging or attach, very similar. Thoma Mariba, Nyeba Duji Sumbana Jiba Mezu, Ngaba Keja Tuba Reba Dumba Suwa Geba Seba. Number 9 is, taking, we say take or taking. Grasping. Grasping is just taking or, taking or something, grasping. Then number 10 is becoming. Number 11, aging and birth and age and birth. The 12 is aging and death. These are 12. The simply, ignorance is the main cause. That due to attachment, attachment, anger, pride, then we accumulate karma, the positive karma or negative karma. If you accumulate, the negative karma, due to negative karma, then, we take a rebirth in the lower realms. Due to the positive karma, we take a rebirth in the higher realms. When we take a rebirth, then we possess this body. The root of this body again, yes, the grossly we can say, come from parents. If you go more subtle, then the root of our body is not coming from parents, it's coming from our previous life. Finally, we can say, the subtle energy or subtle wind is the main cause and condition of our body. Then third, yes, the truth of suffering is come from origin of suffering, which is ignorance, attachment, desire, so and so. The number third, the cessation. Before you, believe or before you really practice the paths, first you need to understand the cessation, the concept of cessation. For example, we have a very famous doctor in Singapore. The doctor know every types of sickness and disease. Only one person in Singapore who knows all the disease, any types of sickness and disease. Also, he knows which disease, which sickness is curable or not. This is an example. Then someone got very serious disease. The person visit the doctor. The doctor said, "Oh, you should not take any medicine because it cannot cure. It cannot cure, right? Say you cannot cure." Then the person doesn't have to spend a lot of money, doesn't have to spend time to cure that sickness, because it's uncurable. Incurable or uncurable? Incurable, right? Same. Then, so we have a ignorance. Due to ignorance, there's attachment, anger. All this is arising from ignorance. The question, the ignorance is, ceasable, can cease or not? This is a question. All the afflict emotion, ignorance are, able to eliminate or not. Not able to eliminate, forget the practice of Dharma. Just, be happy, whatever you want, whichever you want. Then, this is very important. The ignorance is we can eliminate or not. The attachment, we can eliminate or not. Yes, we can see anger, we can eliminate, we can reduce. Attachment, anger also, yes. So finally you have to go, the root is, we can eliminate or not. This is a big question. Very big question, also very important question. Otherwise, look at, we believe so many things. Most of the belief, we just simply believe, somebody say, so we believe. It mentioned in certain books, we believe. It's said by, certain master, so we just believe. We never go very deep. So a very important one, how we can eliminate the ignorance. How we can eliminate the attachment, desire. How we can achieve nirvana or cessation. Then it have to go the wisdom. So now we need to know what is the nature. What is the nature of ignorance? What is the ignorance, perceive things? For example, when if we look at the snow mountain by wearing the sunglass, sunglass. At that time, when we look at the snow mountain, we can see snow mountain as a yellow, red, blue, green. The color is not the real color of the snow mountain, right? When we look at, even though just look at yourself, you just look at around you, so we cannot see, there's a lot of, every moment is changing. One, that we have a very strong ignorance. The most subtle level, then we have to go how things are exist. How things are exist. Do we really understand the nature of the existence of all phenomena or not? Then you have to study the Madhyamaka, the middle way, the concept of middle way. So when you study about the middle way, when you study about emptiness, when you study about the ultimate truth, then slowly you're going to understand things exist that way, but I perceive this way. For you, totally there's a duality, which is you perceive, which is there exists. So you have to study Madhyamaka to know the meaning of ignorance, the meaning of cessation. Okay? So in order to know the nature of the mind, or simply now we can use mind, you have, when you study in precisely, then you have to say mind and mental factor. Mind and mental factors. We don't use just mind, we say minds. There are so many different types of mind. There are so many different types of mental factors. So what is the differences between mind and mental factor? The minds look like a king. When the king go to somewhere, the king very much depend the helper, right? The cabinet. So the king always have to act what the cabinet said. So the mind is look like a king. All the mental factors are like a cabinet minister. For example, the mental factor, when the mental factor fully attached to the phenomena, the mind is also attached. when the mental factor totally become, anger, the mind also became anger. So you have to study the mental factor, mind and mental factors, and 12 links interdependence and madhyamaka. If you study 3 of them, then you fully understand the 4 noble truths. When you fully understand the 4 noble truths, then you're going to believe in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. How? Look at, when you understand, yes, the ignorance can eliminate. How I can eliminate? How he or she can eliminate? If the person meditate on emptiness, if the person, the practitioner, meditate on selflessness, then the ignorance can eliminate. How? The practitioner have to practice for many years. Then you can understand the first path of accumulation. Second path of preparation. The third path of seeing. Then when you understand the third path, the seeing path, then you understand the Sangha. The Sangha. Oh, Sangha is not referred to all the monks and nuns. I'm a monk, but I'm not Sangha within the 3 jewels. Within the 3 jewels, the Sangha must realize emptiness directly. They must realize emptiness, selflessness directly. Then what we call Sangha. When you understand Sangha, then you're going to understand Dharma. Dharma, okay? Dharma is, we are not talking about the books. We are not talking about the sound when we chant, when you hear the sound. It's not really the Dharma. Dharma actually, the truth meaning. The truth meaning. Also Dharma, you can divide into 2. One, the cessation, also Dharma. The path, the seeing path, the meditation path, no more learning paths are the Dharma. When you understand Sangha and Dharma, last, then you can understand Buddha. What I'm trying to explain you, in order to become a Buddhist, you must know the 3 jewels, triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. In order to know Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, you must know the 4 truths, 4 noble truths. In order to know the 4 noble truths, you must know the minds and mental factors. You must know the middle way. You must know the emptiness. As well as you must know all the afflicted emotions, ignorance can be eliminated or not. In order to know the 4 noble truths, then you have to know the true truths. That means true truths. If possible, there are 4 noble truths possible. If there's a 4 noble truths, then there's a triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. If there's a real Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, then you really believe into Buddha, believe into Dharma, believe into Sangha. So when we talk about Buddha, when we think about Buddha, everybody thinks, wow, Buddha has a lot of power, lot of energy, right? We think this way. Also we think, oh, Buddha can see everything. Yes, Buddha can see everything. Or the Buddha can see everything or not is not important for us. For example, that when you get sick, you have to see a doctor. We don't care that doctor has a beautiful wife or ugly wife. We don't care. What we care? We care the knowledge of the doctor, experience of the doctor. So we don't care Buddha can see 100 mile, 1,000 mile, whatever. We don't care. We really care if Buddha understand, if Buddha able to teach us how to, be free from suffering. If Buddha can teach us the origin of suffering, how to eliminate, for us this is important. That's why when you think about Buddha, you need to think about the qualities of the Buddha. For example, when you buy new product, new cell phone, like let's say like a supermarket. Before you go supermarket, you need to think many times, right? Should I buy the new product or not? Finally, you think, yes, I must buy new phone. When you go supermarket, how many times you are looking? Also, you are checking the warranty, the guarantee, all the product, all the function, right? Without knowing all the details, you're not going to buy a phone, even the simple phone. Look at now, we don't know very detailed the details of Buddha, the details of Dharma, the details of Sangha, but we still believe, we still, just believe and we practice. So that's why, even the simple thing, before we buy, we need to do a lot of studies. We must do a lot of study about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, Four Noble Truths, Karma, next life and previous life. If you have, almost good knowledge about all of them, then you really can believe, you can practice, you can follow. Otherwise, we just simply, doing. We do so many things without knowing the details. That's why, most of us spend many years with the Buddhism. We practice Buddhism for so many years. If you think about your minds, if you think about all the every emotion, sometimes it's become more stronger, more powerful than the before. Because we don't know how to practice Dharma, we don't know how to minimize, we don't know how to meditate all the practices. That's why, we cannot have a, good progress. So that's why, in order to know the complete Buddhism, True Truths, Four Noble Truths, then Triple Gem, as well as the Buddha nature, as well as the mind and mental factor, the emptiness, are so important. Then, you can have a quite good condition to believe in Buddhism, practice in Buddhism. So, this is the basic, things to know before you practice Buddhism. Second, within the Buddhism, we have two traditions, right? What we call Theravada and Mahayana. Theravada and Mahayana. So, how we have two different lineages in Buddhism. Then again, we have to know, the real history of Buddhism. So the first time when Buddha Shakyamuni, teach the Four Noble Truths, he taught in publicly, very openly, for anybody can attend, anybody can study, anybody can, listen the teaching. There's nothing, like secret thing. It's very open and public teaching. Then the public is taught in publicly and openly. Then it's become very common practice for all Buddhists. And also, they written down in the paper after Buddha passed away. I think maybe just after 1 year after Buddha passed away, they written down everything on paper. That's why this tradition from India, I think first went to Sri Lanka, then Thailand, as well as to Thailand also, start from directly India to Thailand, through Sri Lanka to Thailand. Then also this kind of tradition go to Burma, Laos, Cambodia, through I think the sea route. This is very common practice, written down on the paper after, one year later after Buddha passed away. When you study about the Theravada tradition, all the teaching in Pali or language, you cannot see, many words about emptiness, about bodhicitta, about the complete nirvana. They always say nirvana. They never use the complete. They use enlightenment, but they never use the fully enlightened being. The second, when Buddha taught about the prajna paramita, teaching about emptiness, he taught this teaching to the selective students, not everybody. Selective students, or some students, also some attender, came from different planets, not only this world. And the teaching about Parja Paramita was, taught by Buddha for particular, the selective student. And those teaching, they never written down on the paper, it never written down for many years. It become quite secret teaching. That's why when Buddhism, flourished to Sri Lanka and Thailand, it just flourished the common teaching, Four Noble Truths, 12 Independent, and karma, as well as 37 practice, so and so. Then second, the Paramita teaching become kind of hidden or secret. It's become secret, hidden, because if Buddha taught this teaching publicly, most people don't understand. That's why we have a Mahayana tradition. Then top of them, then we have the Vajrayana. Within the Mahayana, I mentioned at the beginning, within the Mahayana we have a Sutrayan, Sutra Mahayan, Tantra Mahayan. So Tantra Mahayan become very, very secret. It didn't written down for, I think, almost 300 or 400 years after Buddha passed away. Then slowly, they written down. Otherwise, it just passed through orally, through transmission. They never written down. Thus, we have a Theravada tradition. We have a Mahayana. Within the Mahayana, we have a three. Now, you must know what is the differences between Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. What is the differences between within the Sutra Mahayan and Tantra Mahayan? Three questions, right? Question number one, what is the differences between Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism? What is the differences between within the Sutra Mahayan and Tantra Mahayan? So there's a two question. So I will rest for you. So you go in Google or you read different books, then you're going to understand the difference. This is roughly, not really detailedly. That's what I want to say for the introduction. The next class, so we will talk, more precisely about the practice of Theravada, practice of Sutra Mahayan, practice of Tantra Mahayan. So I urge all of you, whatever you learn about Buddhism, you must learn as a important factor. You must learn is so important for your life. You should not learn as a knowledge. If you just only learn as a knowledge, then it just, you study for Buddhism many years, they increase your ego, your pride, your attachment. Because you thought, oh, I know better than you, right? Then you got very strong pride. You don't practice. Also increase, attachment, because you thought, oh, I got a lot of knowledge about Buddhism. You just attach your knowledge, you never use it. So, of course, most of you, everybody, try to practice Buddhism. So you must practice Not just practice seriously, not seriously, continuously. Then again, it's become, meditation is very important. Very important. Unfortunately, nowadays, the non-Buddhist people doing more meditation than the Buddhists. Right? For example, when you go to Europe, when you go to America, wherever you go, all the people talk about meditation. Every day they do, like 10, 15, 20 minute meditation in order to have a calm mind, in order to have a, clear mind. We Buddhists, what we do, even though in here, I get up in the morning, set up all the water, offer incense and light, finish my practice. So we should not do like this. Of course, we must do all the, the offering practice of prostration, practice of recitation. Of course, those are very important. Only this is not enough. So if you spend 1 hour with your practices, 20 minutes, you can spend, the ritual or chanting, mantra, prostration, making offering, whatever. Then 40 minutes you must spend with the meditation at the beginning. Slowly, then you will spend 1 hour with practice, 25 minutes. No, like 10 minutes with the ritual, chanting, recitation, prostration thing, 10 minutes. Then 50-minute meditation. Then finally, just beginning to end, full 1 hour, you just do meditation. Slowly, you no need to do a lot of, the ritual or chanting, recitation. You must need, but there's a certain time you need to do lesser and lesser, do more meditation. Particularly, the people who practice the sadhana, you have to know the practice of 2 stages. So, also meditation. So, next maybe one or 2 classes, we must spend a little bit about how to do meditation. There's a lot of misunderstanding about meditation. So I urge all of you, study, whatever you study, whatever you learn, you must put into practice. You must practice, put into practice seriously, continuously. When you confront, when you meet certain problem with your friends, your family, your co-worker, or whoever, you just use the Dharma to reduce the bad thoughts, negative thoughts. Even though when you go, the place which has a lot of problem with the water, problem with the food, problem with the weather, all the problem, when you face, you must use your daily practices. You must use all the knowledge which is you learn from your teachers, your friends, your whatever. Then definitely, if you do this for 1 year, continuously 1 year, within 1 year, then you can really going to feel, yes, I am more happy than the last year. My mind is more calm than last year. I have a less attachment, less desire. I'm not sure ignorance, less desire, less attachment. Also, for you can feel, I'm more easy to control my mind. Within 1 year, please, everybody, practice whatever you learn. Do practice for 1 year. Within 1 year, then you can have a lot of progress. When you have a little progress, then you have a more progress. So this I want to say today. The next, we learn about the Theravadas in practice of Theravada, practice in Sutra Mahayana, practice of Tantra Mahayana. Then also one day we spend more time about 12 links interdependent. Then we study 1 or 2 classes about mind and mental factors. Then Then slowly, then we can, have a basic classes about Lamrim. So before you study Lamrim, you have to know so many things. Then when you study Lamrim, for you very easy to understand the Lamrim. Okay, so we stop here. Any question before we do the dedication prayers? Any question?
We talk about 3 baskets. Where does it come under Mahayana? 3 baskets.
Okay. Because they use the basket. Because this term translate from Tibetan to English. Tibetan. In Sanskrit they go Pitika. We Tibetan use the kind of container like a basket. That's why they translate from Tibetan to English basket. Look at the container must contain something. We call container because it contains something. Basket contains something. All the Buddha teachings, doesn't matter Sutrayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana, all the Buddha teaching, we must include into 3 basket. 3 pitikas. Basket of Sutra, basket of Vinaya, basket of Abhidharma. 3 baskets. That means 3 content, 3 subjects. As a Buddhist, we have only 3 practices. Practice of morality, practice of wisdom, practice of mindfulness. Right? Look at. Then, first you have to be honest person. In order to be honest, you must follow the morality. That means the teaching which is talk about the morality, talk about the conducts. We call the Vinaya basket. Vinaya basket. The teaching which is talk about wisdom, like impermanence, emptiness, selflessness, so and so, we call basket of Abhidharma. Then third basket of Sutra. The teaching which is talk about mindfulness, meditation, those are included into the Sutra basket. That means we have a Vinaya basket, Sutra basket, and Abhidharma basket. Tripitaka. So there's an order. When you practice, first you must practice morality. Second, wisdom. Third, wisdom. All Buddha teaching include into 3 basket, Tripitaka. Because when Buddha, gave teaching, he never give one day teaching for Vinaya, one day teaching, Abhidharma. Different time he gave different teaching. When you study all the teaching, then you can see, yes, he talk about the, morality, he talks about mindfulness, then he talk about wisdom. He has 3 baskets. Any question? No? Okay, I think nobody has any question, so we can do the dedication prayers, only do the Lamrim. So each time, every day when you do kind of good actions, or when you do kind of practice, even though when you visit a temple, a Buddhist center, first, motivation is very important. Motivation. Second, actual action. Third, dedication. Even though, when you visit a temple, first you set up the proper motivation to visit the temple. So while you visit temple, you must have a good thoughts. After you finish to visit the temple, then you just feel, yes, I have a motivation. I visit the temple. I accumulate, positive karma, merit. The merits you must dedicate for whatever you want. If you don't dedicate the merit, the positive karma is going to, minimize or going to destroy it by anger and hatred. Dedication is so important. Overall, how we can do dedication? Simple way, just think, I want to dedicate this merit myself to be a Buddha, to benefit all sentient beings. Then second, you go more precisely. Okay, if you have some friends who have problems, you have some kind of relatives who have problem, or you have your own problem, then second you think, I'm going to dedicate this merit to overcome this sickness, this problem, that problem. Then you can go more precisely. At the beginning, you should not think, I'm going to dedicate this merit to benefit myself, benefit my friends, benefit my relatives. Generally, dedicate to be Buddha, to benefit all sentient beings. Whichever, whenever you accumulate merit, first dedicate to be Buddha, to benefit all sentient beings, then go more precisely. So here today we just do the Lamrim, just only Lamrim prayers.